I got an email at the beginning of the year from a lavender farm who said, can I put your content onto our website, like a link to Ohio road trips? I was like, well, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in that email, she said, I'd love to meet you. Your Facebook group more than likely saved our business.
Welcome to the Small Nation Podcast, brought to you by CoverLink Insurance, where people are more important than policies. On this show, we unpack lessons from entrepreneurs, break down development strategies, and do deep dives on small town success. Our goal is to provide value to our listeners by hosting conversations that teach, inform, and inspire. Hey everyone, my name is Ethan DeLeon, and I'm here in the studio with the founder and CEO of Small Nation, Jason Duff. Today, we're excited to be talking to author, chief writer at Gleason Family Adventure, and creator of the Ohio Road Trips Facebook group, Brandy Gleason. Welcome, Brandy.
Hey,
Yay,
thanks so much
Brandy.
for having me. Glad to be here.
Glad you're here today. And first off, guys, it is National Small Business Week. So I want to first give a big woohoo to everyone that is listening that's a small business owner. I know each one of you, Ethan and Brandy, you've got your own respective small businesses, but just a great thing to celebrate the smallest of the small around the country that really fuels 70+% of our economy. And there couldn't be a better topic today than talking about travel and tourism and all these really cool places to visit all around Ohio and beyond. And Brandy, I'm just so excited to have you on the show today.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And Brandy and her husband and family are located in Plain City, Ohio.
Yeah.
Tell us about Plain City.
Town girl.
Yeah.
Hey, now there's a big up and coming little town.
Oh, I'm 5 minutes away from it, so I'm excited about it.
Me
Yes.
too. Actually, I go every week just to kind of see what's been going on in the downtown area. We actually own a small building in there called the Stauffer's Block that we're revitalizing ourselves. So
Love that.
All right.
Fun. Yeah.
Very cool.
But I just found out there's going to be a bourbon bar
So
in the McCune building.
The connection to that is Dr. Dave from Urbana that is also revitalizing the Flying Fish lofts that are there. It's actually his daughter that is the entrepreneur that's opening that. So another just small town connection.
Yep.
So yeah.
So I'm super excited. So Plain City's changed a lot since I was there as a little girl, but it still has its small town charm.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up there?
It was just a small little town. We used to cruise it called the Amish 500, like you did the triangle, then you went out to the bowling alley and back again. That was a cool Friday night.
And you chose to, not only you grew up there, but you chose to have your family there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we stayed local. So still, my Grammy still lives right where she lives for 75 plus years, right by where the Dairy Queen was. So if you're looking for beautiful flowers, that's the place to go.
And there is an Amish community that is in Plain City, right?
It's more of a Mennonite, beachy Amish community now. The Amish all moved out. There's no more horse and buggies, but it's still got its religious heritage there.
Well, there's no question when you ask people around the state and you bring up Plain City, one of the places that I hear a lot is, have you ever been to the Deer Dutchman?
Right? Right.
Yep.
So many towns are built on the currency of donuts and how good their donuts are.
That's so true.
The
That is true.
And it is, if you've never been, it is an operation. Like I'm always blown away and inspired because they have this amazing breakfast, brunch. They have, of course, lunch and dinner service, but they then also have event space that's right there,
right?
And offsite catering and a pretty cool gift shop. So it's something that I think 20 plus years ago they planted their flag and it has grown and grown and grown.
Well, and they still have they have drive-ins now for cars every week and Thursdays in the summertime. We even have farmers markets that are open year round and a cheese house and a really cool thrift store that donates to the world. There's a lot of good things going on that you wouldn't know in a small town.
Yeah, and for context, it's just on the outside. For anyone who doesn't know where Plain City is, just on the outside of Columbus on the west side there. But yeah, changing quite a bit. I know my sister lived there for a little bit, and Deer Dutchman is quite the operation. But this morning we had a chance to talk before the podcast, and you just shared that you took a pretty special trip with your family in 2018 that kind of kicked off this exciting journey for you. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about what that trip was, and yeah, just take it from there.
Okay, so I was a homeschool mom for 26 years. Yes,
Wow.
that's why I have hair dye now, because I did that. But it was great. But one day, right after the holidays at Christmas time, the online community that they were doing their science and history in suddenly closed. And I was stuck with, how am I going to elaborate on this science and history curriculum? So my husband said, we should do a backcountry hike to the Rocky Mountain National Park and use the Junior Ranger book for the topography and the history and teach them how to go live in the woods for 3 days. And I was like, that's,
wow.
I know, right?
Wow. Bold.
But we also have 2 diabetics.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow.
type 1 diabetics that we were going to take off grid. And so there was a lot of planning and training that took place. So I thought, well, I'll keep track by a blog. So it was gleasonfamilyadventure.wordpress.com, right? Free.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. And because I was like, it's just for me. And we started an Instagram account. So back then you could download into chat books to make like a family album of your adventure. So I'm like, oh, that's great. So I'll do it. Within a week, I was on the news. Metro Parks were like, we want to do a story on your family. Like, what are you doing training in our parks? So
That's incredible. So was it just one blog post that you were just
I'm
very
not even sure
thorough
I had
with?
written a blog post yet.
Really?
It was really the social media. I think that immediately took up was, oh my gosh, this family's hiking in the Metro Parks and they're training for this backcountry hike. And we want to know more about it.
Yeah, and obviously you had to be very prepared, and so you were planning everything and sharing that, and people caught on.
Yeah, like within 7 days, people were like, this is crazy. What are you doing?
Yeah, wow.
Well, and coming into that, you had some background in writing, right?
Just grading homeschool papers.
There you go.
That's something in itself, but
Yeah.
like part of it is having the courage to like put yourself out there. Like,
I didn't know I was doing that. It was an accident.
okay.
Like it
Yep.
like truly was an accident. So yeah, my mom did always say, well, one day you'll be a writer. Because I love to journal. I would journal
Yeah.
a lot, but not for people's eyes.
Yeah.
So obviously this page got out there. You started getting media that was picking up and saying, we love following your family, and seeing these images that you were taking.
Yep.
What happened next?
Oh my goodness. Well, here we are. 5 books in almost.
Wow.
1.1 million members in a Facebook group.
So wait a minute. She just kind of glazes over that. So the Facebook group is called Ohio Road Trips.
Yep.
And can you repeat one more time how many members of that group you have?
1.1 million.
Wow.
So to give some perspective, there aren't many people that have achieved the milestone of attracting that many members. That nearly puts you in the top 50 in all of the existence of Facebook.
For real. I
Groups.
kind of Googled that after you and I got off the phone.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm really curious. Like, and it's not listed in the top 50, but it definitely ranks there.
It's getting up there.
I
Wow.
just keep hiding in behind just hide behind all that.
Well, I will share that I first kind of learned at the group. It's probably been about 3-4 years ago, so kind of right after COVID. And for me, what I loved about it, because we interact with so many small towns, is that it was very well curated, because I could go on and search or find a post about a particular town, and it usually was generated by one of the members, and you knew that it was authentic and real. It wasn't like a polished salesy thing. And obviously when you created this Facebook group, there had to be some thought and intention eventually developed to make sure it was quality.
Yeah, somewhere down along the line, I started getting spam content, right, from different countries, different things. So I had to educate myself because I didn't plan on moderating 1.1 million people.
Right.
That's a lot of people. And so I just started being really intentional. And we did start adding new rules. And, okay, we need to polish this rule up, or we need to say you can't do this or you can do this. So that became a process. And we're pretty hardcore. First thing I do when I get up is moderate my Facebook group.
Wow.
That's the number one thing that happens in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, and prior to creating the group, had you spent much time on Facebook? Like, you were pretty new to it?
No, I was busy. I was raising
Busy with
8
life.
kids.
Yeah, no. So really kind of moving into it, but I'll share as using Facebook for, since 2000.
Facebook addict. Let's just call it what it is.
That's what Lance says. Like he says, oh, you've earned your doctoral degree in Facebook. You spend so much time
Jason
on there.
lives on Facebook, everybody.
Can I tell you, I'll give you a little reason why, is that when we started launching all these small businesses, the way to market them, the traditional ways that we used to use with Yellow Pages or radio or newspaper, they just all changed. And so you had to find a forum where you could connect and interact with your customers. And in the early days of Facebook, it was our personal profiles. We would create a profile that would be us as an identity, and we would share things in the small business community about what was happening in our businesses, and we would like and comment influencing getting people to see your content.
100%. So I actually taught a class on that recently. And if you are a business owner, a small business owner, you should have a private group or public group. I would say always keep your groups public because that means that content can be shared out. But if you have a group, these people have intentionally joined this group. So Facebook knows to put that content in front of them.
Yeah.
Instead of a page where, oh, you like lots of different pages, so you have to fall into that person's algorithm. This person chose you. They chose your group. They chose your business or whatever you're offering. So a group is, I tell everybody to utilize that to the best of their ability.
In setting up that group, just some suggestions to help a small business owner that's concerned about spam, or any tips that you would have about what are the key things to make sure you consider or look at when setting it up?
I think the most important thing is, number one, to keep it public so that your content can be shared unless you have something that you're trying to keep private. Number two is to make sure you ask questions. One of my questions is, what's 2 + 2? It's 4. But people always ask, why do you do that? That's so annoying. And it's like, because people from other countries they don't understand what I'm trying to ask. And then I put a whole bunch of different words. If you don't answer this question, I know that you're a spammer. So just answer the question. So I've made sure that
you're kind of vetting those people as soon as they join the group. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting is, from my perspective, Facebook groups are just part of life now. I feel like almost anyone probably listening to this podcast is a part of multiple Facebook groups and may even be a part of,
Ohio Road Trips.
Road Trips. I know I am. And so, I am doing it for my pickup soccer league in the community, or, other videographer groups where I'm in conversation and I have a community there with other people in the same industry. And you were telling me, I thought this was very interesting, that these groups and pages have kind of been, in existence from the onset of Facebook, right?
Yeah, and they kind of went away. Didn't really see them a lot. Now we're back to where that's Facebook forward. But also wanted to lead into Jason's addiction to Facebook, because we hear it's just for old people. I just did my analytics, and I'm going to tell you that is not true.
Yep.
Yeah, tell us. Yeah, what are your analytics?
Yeah, oh, really? I'm not going to tell you them all. But I will tell you that the 35 to 45-year-old age group is the largest age group in Ohio Road Trips, which took me completely by surprise.
Wow.
Well,
welcome back to Facebook.
Yeah.
And some of that, we also know that, the segment, that's where a lot of the college students, 15, 20 years ago, like that's when they were just starting to getting on when it was very innovative. And as Facebook is kind of following people along, as you're posting photos, that's kind of one of the things that make it very sticky, is that I never want to lose all of those memories and all of those photos.
Right.
And then particularly for their parents and grandparents, like wanting to see pictures of kids and making that connection. So I imagine that as you're looking at those demographics, you want to try to encourage content that would appeal to those audiences.
Absolutely. I'm always looking for something that's going to appeal to families, solo travelers, couples, people who are just retiring. I mean, those are the people who are out looking for trips to do. So I definitely lean heavily there.
And to your point, like I am much more, I care much more about my Instagram feed than my Facebook feed personally, but I still check in, multiple times a day, probably on Facebook for my Facebook groups intentionally. So like, it doesn't matter like, what age group. I feel like you're still pulling in a little bit of everybody, specifically with the page kind of tool on Facebook.
Yeah, Instagram's my favorite too, but it's very hard to reach people now that Facebook purchased. So it's a meta business now. And if you're not paying to play, if you get on Instagram, you see sponsored content, then your suggested content, and then the people you follow, which is really annoying.
Yeah. Well, this kind of is going to segue a little bit into something I found kind of interesting about the way you conduct your business, right? So you've built a business on this, and I know you've written multiple books, and we'll get to those here in a bit, but how do you think about the word influencer?
Well, that's a really sore subject with me because I have raised 8 children, and I think most mom and dads raise kids to be independent thinkers. So to me, to say that I've influenced somebody to go and do something really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
I like to say I'm an inspirationalist. I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you to go do something different, try different food, go to a different place, walk down a street that's made of concrete that's been around for a really long time. Because it is interesting. And getting people outside or going to do things like that really excites me. But to be saying I've influenced them just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I want to inspire you. I want to inspire people. And I think that's most people's goals, is to inspire. And I lean really strongly over there.
Yeah. And to your point about like sponsored content, I feel like the way you're doing it, I mean, you're managing a Facebook group. So like, people are contributing, from all over, and obviously you're monitoring that, but you typically, like, most of it is not sponsored content. It's just. So tell me a little bit about how you go about doing that.
So I rarely will do sponsored content because I really feel like that's pitchy, salesy, or, it's not authentic. I'm looking for authentic things that people want to go and do. So my goal with Gleason Media is to create content for brands, destinations, and I give that to you. You own them. You put it on your platforms because we want to drive the business. I want to drive business to you.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need them to come to me. I've got 1.1 million people who are already engaging in content that I'm making that I enjoy, that's authentically me. But I can take what I've learned and make it for other people, and then they use it for themselves, and then that content drives people to them.
Yeah. Which kind of puts you in a category. Again, there's a lot of these terms are used interchangeably depending on of your understanding of them. But from what I hear from that, it makes you more of like a content creator rather than an influencer who is, influencing people to, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's just something that kind of happened. Probably because I don't like being considered an influencer. I thought, how can I use this to run Gleason Media without putting content out that I've created for sponsored content? And that was to be a content creator.
Well, and she's very humble. And I think that's why I just have a deep respect for you, Brandy. But the one thing that I'll share is I probably about 6 months ago took a trip down to Lebanon, Ohio. And one of the things I love to do is travel to other historic downtowns throughout the state and, of course, eat and shop my way through the town. And it just happened to be that day that the clouds and the sky was like perfect in the way it was hitting the buildings. There were lots of people on the streets. So I was like taking photos throughout town, and probably ended up snapping about 8 to 10 photos I was really proud of. So I took time and posted on the Ohio Roads Trip Facebook group and highlighted a few of my favorite things that I did as I was walking through and experiencing town. It was, some of the food that I'd eaten, a cup of the local coffee shop, and some of the gifts that I had purchased. And I posted it. And that one particular post, I think it generated somewhere around 400 or 500 shares and maybe, several hundred comments. But I have friends that own businesses in Lebanon that then reached out to me a few weeks later and said, hey, that post that you did brought people into my store who spent money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you if you don't hear this enough, you need to be hearing it more, because that's the power of a group like that. It actually it's a huge important tool to drive economic development to a town.
Absolutely. I think that is the most underestimated thing that I do. I don't think people believe it sometimes, right?
I'm a believer.
Yeah.
But when I talk to places, it's like, I promise. I can't always guarantee numbers, but I know that fresh eyes are going to get on your destination and you're going to just fall in love with this place.
Yeah.
Well, we hosted J.D. Yoder, who's the manager of Ohio Caverns. So Ohio Caverns is an attraction, and a lot of times are surrounding these historic towns, that what makes them unique are the attractions that are there. And I'm always amazed when I bring up to people, like, have you ever been to Ohio Caverns? And some people are like, I've never heard of it before. Right. But I think helping these really unique places that are maybe under the radar, like, become known, it does a number of things. Money translates to energy. And so as they have more economic success, they can hire more people, they can expand their attraction, and then all the kind of things around that journey are going to win too.
Absolutely. And I was talking to Ethan today. I got an email at the beginning of the year from a lavender farm who said, can I put your content onto our website, like a link to Ohio Road Trips? I was like, well, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in that email, she said, I'd love to meet you. Your Facebook group more than likely saved our business.
Wow.
And
Huge.
It is. And I was telling him, I was in Northeast Ohio one time. This lady had just signed her lease in February of 2020 to start her business. We all know what happened.
February
right?
2020. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we happened to come in a few months later, took some pictures because we love coffee. It was a little coffee shop with coffee flights, and we shared it because that's what we were doing. Mm-hmm. And it went viral. She had a 2-hour wait the next day, ran out of food. When I met her a year later again, she said, I just re-signed my lease, and I'm, that post probably helped us stay here. And that, to me, makes my job really wonderful.
Yeah. You can see directly that you're making a real difference in people's lives. Yeah. And it's a very, I feel like we're on a little bit of a tourism trail here with the podcast recently. And we just had the Ohio Caverns on and talking about that and just how much that affects economic development. We talk a lot about economic development here on the podcast, and getting people to shop local is one thing, but drawing people in is another. And obviously social media is a great way to do that. I feel like a lot of people, increasingly so, feel overwhelmed, on how to do that and to do it effectively. And so that it's not a waste of time for their energy. So I guess I say all that to tee up a question. How would you recommend for someone that may be listening to reach out to someone like yourself, whether they are here in Ohio or, we have listeners all across the country? How would they find someone like you and maybe, have them come visit and shout out their downtown? Okay.
So for me, obviously, you just look up Brandy Gleason. You can find some content for Gleason Family Adventure. Usually you're scrolling and you find people that fit what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And I will lean into numbers don't always matter. So I work with a destination called Gulf Shores, Alabama. So it's visit Alabama beaches. Mm-hmm. And we work with them a lot. And she worked with me back when I had very small numbers. And she was just like, I really love what you're doing. We're going to give you a shot and just come on down and we'll see what happens. I work with them every 6 months now, and they've been with me a long time. And I asked her one time, do numbers really matter? And she said, if people are creating authentic content, it aligns with your brand, you like who they are online and their presence, have them come in. It doesn't have to be that huge, big influencer.
Right. Yeah.
Micro influencers are really actually where the authentic content is being made.
Really powerful.
Well, and it's finding those niche people that's the kind of neat thing about segmentation, is that you can actually find someone that loves to watch Star Trek, that reads this comic, that is looking to buy these things. Like niching down to who they are and what kind of audience they have. I might be one of those people. So
You're a Trekkie, huh?
Super nerd. Oh yeah.
I didn't know this, Jason. All right.
Star Wars versus, we should add those to the rapid fire. Star Wars versus Star Trek.
Well, so I guess I'm leaving.
Sorry. I've just done over 70 episodes with this guy. And I'm just now learning this.
All these things. But I think that no matter how unique your business is and what you're selling, find that group and interact with it. So here's a question for the members that are in your group. What are good ways to add helpful comments?
Oh my goodness. Helpful comments, where it's at. If you have a picture, add the picture. Addresses. Don't say my house. Because that, nobody wants to go to your house. Like, where's the best lasagna? Well, give the restaurant's name. Tell us where it's at. Put it like Northeast Ohio, or it's down in Cincinnati along the river, 10 steps from the store. No, it doesn't have to be that detailed. But that is a problem that is really difficult. Is we do get a lot of questions where somebody will say, I'm looking for something in Northeast Ohio. And somebody says, well, down in Cincinnati.
Right, that's not helpful.
That's not the question. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we do get a lot of kickback from members saying, can you just get it right? Don't you know geography?
Which, one thing that I also notice in your group, there are certain communities that really have members that are bought in.
Yes.
And there's I noticed the Chillicothe tribe. I'm just giving a shout out to them. Like, they are very helpful of chiming in. I see, we of course have the Bell Fountain tribe that I know is interacting in there. But like, I think that's kind of cool that people are rallied around commenting helpful things about their town.
Absolutely. And your best ambassador is your own community. So if I can get the community to know what they love about their community, when I'm walking in, this, for example, in Marysville, for example, I'll say, did you know, to a waitress? And she was like, I had no idea we had that here in Marysville, Ohio.
Right.
I did a jetpack water adventure. It's where you put these jetpacks on your feet.
That sounds fun.
I'm old.
No, we're pretty close.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But at dinner, I had to tell the waiter, like, oh, did you know that you can do a jetpack water adventure right here in Lancaster, Ohio? He was like, no. I was like, right here. You usually have to go up to Lake Erie or go to the ocean.
Right.
Or you have to go a really long way to be able to do something like that. And it's right in Lancaster, Ohio.
Wow.
Did you know? See?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Didn't know.
That's really cool. How do you get people to engage? Like, how do you get them to start contributing?
Is there certain content that you find is more engaging? Is it asking a question? Is it posting an image? Like any tips around that?
I definitely think if people post images, that will help the content do really well. I never post anything just, hey, I went here today. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you put a picture beside it, they definitely will. People read the first two sentences of a post and nothing else.
Right.
So they're
the
engaging.
Headline, right?
Yeah, you have them for the first two sentences, and then after that, it's the content and the images. And so in the images, I always put where it's at too. So if people click on the image, they also can see where it's at.
I love that. So moderation. There's a lot about social media that is pretty dark and pretty negative. And like, a lot of people just get angry and frustrated. You have kind of a no tolerance policy that I really admire about negativity and people you just say don't belong here.
Right. So there's plenty of places in the world for negativity.
Mm-hmm.
My space is not one of them. I raised 8 children. You don't want to cross my path because I know how to keep things going and marching the way I think that they should. So I'm not afraid to let somebody know that comment was out of line. If they give me kickback and tell me where the sun doesn't shine, bye.
Bye.
Yeah. You can go from the group.
And it's okay. I mean, the first few times I was a little like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want to do it.
Give them one more chance. Yeah. And then it's like, it's never worth it. So I think the world's a a place that we need positivity. Businesses don't need negativity. They struggle enough. I've learned a lot in this industry that, restaurants work on a very small margin. They don't need somebody saying, oh, my food came out cold. Well, did you look around where was there only one waitress? Did you say, thank you for showing up to work today?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were here to wait on my table. I'm so glad that I'm not cooking my own food. She's going to take that food back and warm it up for you and make sure that you're 9 times out of 10, they're going to go above and beyond. Mm-hmm. But we can't focus on that one little negative thing that happened in a restaurant. One thing I've learned about 1.1 million people in a group, one negative comment can ruin a business as much as my group has helped build a business.
Wow.
Important point.
That's quite the responsibility then that you carry.
Yeah, isn't there a president who said with something comes
Great responsibility.
Great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you know which president?
I was going to say it's a Spider-Man quote. Man, our nerd is really
We all might need to go back to school. Again, Brandy,
I homeschooled. I failed.
We're coming back to Brandy's classes.
All right, at this time, we're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Brew Fountain's voted best beer bar in Ohio. Come visit their award-winning team in downtown Bell Fountain for fresh, local craft beer, soups, salads, sandwiches, wine on tap, and handcrafted cocktails. And they're always available to cater your next event with their boxed lunches and platters. Cheers to Small Nation. Come check out 600 Downtown Pizzeria in downtown Bell Fountain, where they cherish the art of making the most authentic, unique, and delicious, world-famous and award-winning pizzas. Their team hand-spins each pizza the old-fashioned way and only uses the freshest of ingredients. Come see why they were featured on the Food Network.
We gotta talk about this book because first off, I'm so excited about it because part of it is I love to find out where there are cool things and unique things in different towns around the state. And I've had to do that using the Ohio Road Trips Facebook group, but now there's an easier way to do it.
Yeah.
So tell us about the book.
Oh, goodness. Well, if you open it up, the first part says that it's dedicated to the Ohio Road Trips Facebook group. So I definitely appreciate all the work and answered questions that I had. I always said, hey, I'm out here crowdsourcing. I need your help again.
Yeah.
So they played a huge role in some of what has landed into this book.
Yeah.
So I will tell you there's more than 100 because I'm an author and I know how to write creatively. So I did a hamburger restaurant, which was, you have to buy the book to find out.
Great.
And then I listed 4 different other iconic hamburger stops in Ohio, but only had space to highlight one specifically.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Well, and part of having this book is that, if you're looking for those weekend trips, you can check off the ones that you have visited. And there's 100, so this could fill up 100 weekend trips.
Totally.
Right? And then out of this book, you're currently doing book signings and getting to interact with some of your readers and your Facebook members.
It has been amazing. Yeah. I will tell you, somebody said, oh, people know who you are. And I still just think, I'm just the small town girl from Plain City, right? Mm-hmm. But I had my first book signing for this, and there was a 2-hour line the whole time.
Wow.
And it was great. It was wonderful. I got to meet some of our youngest members, who was about 4 years old, who came all the way up to a group of ladies who called themselves the Bettys. And they go and they travel together, and they came and bought the book, and they were out exploring, and they were going to use it to help them plan their trips. And so it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just your most recent book. Is that right? And you've contributed at least to a couple others, and then...
So this one was the first book I did as a standalone, which is Things to Do in Ohio's Amish Country.
Yeah.
They wanted me to write the Ohio book first, but this was kind of still in the throes of COVID when this one was being worked on. And I said, I want to do something more niche down, something I'm really familiar with, because, I didn't know what was going to make it through, all the COVID issues, right? And so I worked on this one, and he said, well, we'll let you do it, but if it flops, you won't get another contract.
Ouch.
Wow.
Oh, I know, I was freaking out. But that's okay. I thought, well, this one was more what I was familiar with, what I was comfortable doing, and I thought, well, if it flops, so I'm not supposed to write anymore. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
And then we have not only Ohio, but expanding the Midwest.
Yeah. So this one came during COVID because we wanted to give people things to do from their car. So we did scenic byways in all the Midwest states. I'm the Ohio writer. So that was my first book that I ever worked on right there.
Love that. And then everyone talks about their bucket list, right? Because we're not going to be around forever. So we need to do the cool things before we die. Tell us about this.
So that one is the Ohio one. You guys are in there.
Woohoo!
All right.
And that came out of a conversation that we had. You kind of informed me, which I didn't know.
We took a tour too
of Bell Fountain because I didn't know.
Yep.
And what we don't know, we don't know.
Well, and this just goes to what she was saying is that Plain City is only 30, 40 minutes away. But sometimes we don't know the cool things that exist in our backyard.
Right.
So part of like having the confidence to reach out and just, of course, thank her and share that I'm a member of the group. But I just offered up to say, would you like to come to town? Love to host you for coffee and take you on a tour. And the powerful thing, and this just goes to speak to Brandy's authenticity and just who she is. She's like, sure, I'd love to come. And not only did she come, but like we went through the town. She was taking photos and shopping in many of the businesses. And then she made a post. And again, those interactions with her group translate to real tourists, new people that are interacting with the town. And when they fall in love with your town, they come back and they tell their friends.
Which leans itself into economic development, because one of the things we like to say is, you stay, you play, you work, you live. And I met a lady online who messaged me and said, I read a post about Mount Vernon. I was living in Columbus. I read a post about Mount Vernon. I went to the dog fountain, fell in love with the town, sold my house, moved to Bell Fountain.
Oh my gosh.
Not Bell Fountain, but
Mount
Vernon.
Vernon.
Mount Vernon, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, are you kidding me? So
For a post about a dog fountain.
literally. And so people might think tourism doesn't bring economic development, right? It's just, but it is a piece. And when we get somebody to a town, just like she came to Mount Vernon, she fell in love, and now that's where she lives, and that's where she works.
That's incredible. And there are a million different approaches to economic development, and I feel like we try to explore as many of those different approaches on the podcast as we can. But kind of back to our Ohio Caverns conversation, you spent some time talking about why it's important to storytell, and just because of that visit, I mean, you do tours all the time with people. Just telling the story of Bell Fountain, how we're in a book, and we're
we hosted on the podcast Adam Whitty, who is the founder of Forbes Books. Mm-hmm. Adam spent a lot of time talking about the importance of writing a book and that becoming part of your business card. Like as you interact with people, there's no more better tool than being the authority in your industry or your marketplace by having a book. So since you have done this, have you seen that? Like, has it changed? Yeah. Like tell us some of those examples. Yeah.
As soon as I had my name in a book that I was a published author, people took me seriously. Prior to that, it was, oh, you're just a blogger. Oh, you're just a mom out there. And truly people will say you're just doing, you're doing that for a free trip. No, I'm actually working. But so I've joked with some people in the Midwest Travel Network. It's a group of collaborative writers that, only in the travel industry as a blogger do people think that we shouldn't be paid, right? Oh, we're going to give you this free trip, or we're going to do these things. I don't really need a free trip. I want to come and work with you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was like
because you're a small business too.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I still pay taxes.
That's right.
Everything I do is taxed.
Sure.
Yep.
So
we could do a whole podcast on that. Actually.
I'd rather not. It's still a
I'm
little fresh
leaving
for me.
again. So that was once the books, people were like, "Oh, you're real." Like, "Oh, you're an author."
Yeah,
I was
some
an
credibility.
author before that, but once it was in a book, there's nothing more valuable than, like you said, being an authority on a topic and be able to say, "Yeah, I have something to show for that." Even though the online presence versus how many books I'm going to sell versus how many people I can reach online are vastly different.
Right.
Being in a book seems to really appeal to people.
Yeah. There was something I think we kind of skipped over it that I wanted to touch on. Going from blogger to starting the Facebook page and eventually you explained to me today that there was a point where you kind of considered doing it professionally. Mm-hmm. What was that shift for you?
Oh, well, there's this lady, her name's Sarah Brors. She runs the Midwest Travel Network. She does a conference. She has a co-op of Midwest writers focusing on the Midwest specifically. And she found me on Twitter one day. I was doing a Twitter chat about national parks. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
It's 2018. I'm trying to plan this trip with my family. And she's like, "Oh, you have a blog?" I was like, "Yeah, GleasonFamilyAdventure.wordpress.com." She's like, "Oh, okay." So she said, "Join my group." And I did. And that actually changed the trajectory of everything I was doing, because now I was in this group with these other writers. I was silent, kind of a lurker. We have lurkers in Ohio road trips too. But that's where she kind of kept saying, what are you going to do with this thing? And I said, nothing. I'm just planning my family's trip. And 6 months later, oh, you're a really great writer. You should do this. And I was like, no, I'm really good. Thanks.
Yeah.
And finally she was doing a writer's workshop and she said, you should come to this writer's workshop. And I was like, oh man, my dad said I have points for an airline ticket. My husband said, yeah, we got enough for you to rent a car. Go ahead and go down and see, if you want to be a professional writer, just go to that workshop. And I did. And that is when it all changed.
Yeah. Did you just sit in some powerful sessions? You make good connections there?
I made connections. That was actually the writers conference was at Gulf Shores, Alabama. And that's where the PR company lady was at. And just, we became friends. And she's like, no, really, you're a great writer. Okay. So all that to be said, here we are.
So we think about there's the book, there's obviously the Facebook group with Ohio Road Trips. There is, as you're continuing to do some writing and some consulting with your clients. But one thing I want to make sure we doubled down on was the importance and the power of email addresses. Yeah. So when people are Facebook members of your group, you have a way to extract and gather and build a list of email addresses.
Yes, and so I have an email address list of people that I want to do a monthly newsletter with, but if you have over 100,000 emails, it's very expensive to send that email list out.
Yeah.
And since I'm not monetizing the group in that way, I haven't been able to really utilize it the way that I should. But one of the ways to get an email address is when they join your group, just ask them if they'd like to be on your email list, and they can accept or decline that by adding their email address.
Yeah.
And so you start to see like all those different channels for a business or for enthusiast within your industry is another powerful tool. So, we at Small Nation have been doing our weekly email blast, I think now for the last 10 years. And one of my mentors just shared is that I was so worried that the content just had to be perfectly written with no spelling errors, all the right images, all the right things, because it takes a lot to generate a weekly email. But then what we started realizing, my mentor kind of shared with me, no, it's just important. You need to show up every week consistently in their email inbox.
Yeah, because they've actually asked to be there.
That's right.
Right, and they want what you have to say.
That's right.
So say it and be there.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Well, and you and I've had some conversations about that. Like that's the thing about small business owners. We're trying to all learn from each other and understand what each other's unique gifts are. And so I think part of some of our goals is just testing things.
Right.
Like what is actually creating value? What is something that can be built as a business unit or a business model? And is there a way that's going to make this community even greater and stronger? And we're kind of doing these micro experiments, and a lot of our listeners and their towns and communities are doing it too, because it's like what you said earlier, the platform is evolving. Mm-hmm. And if we aren't constantly changing or testing or tweaking, it's not going to work the same way.
Right. Right. And I also think for small business owners, I'm doing actually some research on a piece for restaurants for Troy, Ohio, which I've stepped into the biggest, deepest hole that I've ever stepped into. I had this great idea like, let's do this pillar piece for this restaurants. And oh my goodness, I had no idea how much they had. But as I researched the restaurants, I found they don't have their website listed. Their hours are wrong. They don't have their information correct. They have, we serve tacos. What kind of tacos?
Right. Yeah.
Give me some you have burrito tacos. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're authentic burrito tacos. Oh my gosh, they're served on a corn tortilla. I'm in. I'm jumping in my car and I'm on my way now. But if you just leave me hanging, why should I come to, when I land on your Facebook page, why should I come to your restaurant? Why should I come to your destination? You got to draw me in, not just with, here's our hours. I mean, use that about section. Facebook uses keywords. Your page is your keyword SEO strong space there. Use it. People will find you.
That's such great advice. And then another thing that frustrates me is menus not being updated.
Right.
Particularly if there are pricing issues, that can create a negative review for a business if they haven't updated it. Or, do something like have a signature product. Have one thing that you're known for, that you're proud of, and that you do really well. Because in Ohio road trips, when people are mentioning certain restaurants, usually the thing that they share directly after it, you have to try this.
Yeah.
But we have to teach that. And the other thing is, I think we have to teach our entrepreneurs, you always have to be selling. Mm-hmm. You got to sell yourself. You've got to communicate. And sales does not have to be a dirty word. Like, just find something distinctive and unique that you are proud of to promote that's different from what anyone else is doing.
Yeah, 100%. And don't be afraid to share what you have. Because if you don't share it, and I've said this already in the podcast, what I don't know, I don't know. Mm-hmm. So if you don't tell me, I'm not going to know.
Right.
And I've found that I've missed some things for my book that I would have loved to put in, but I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is coaching and training. We're always giving even some of our tenants all the time, being a part of this marketing team, like, we want them to succeed because, everyone wins. And so, we're helping them out on social media or just any of the marketing fronts, because if like you're saying, if people don't know, like, people aren't going to just magically start spending money with you.
This is just another reminder too, is always be willing to ask questions and ask for feedback on how you can be better. Probably one of my biggest pet peeves is someone might be complaining about their business or not having traffic. And instead of saying, hey, like, do you have any feedback for me of anything that I could be doing more? It's complain. The entrepreneurs that seem to win is if their business isn't going exactly the way that they want it to, is they're always like, do you have any feedback for how I can be better? And I'm excited to hear, as you're working with that example that you mentioned with the restaurants, I've been in some cases where certain businesses are just like, thank you so much for catching that or finding that. Like, you're going to make my business better. And then I found some people that like get nasty and resentful that you actually are like trying to help them.
Well, that's why I'm going to let the Convention and Visitors Bureau take care of that.
That's good. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't have any information on this one. You go find it for me.
Yeah, that's the best way to probably handle that.
Not me.
Stay in that positivity lane.
Right.
That positivity lane.
No, I love it. All right, I'm going to move us here into a show segment we like to call the Rapid Fire Q&A. So question number 1 is, what is your favorite form of content creation? Is it photos, videos, copy?
Oh, it's definitely photos.
Really?
If I could get rid of reels, I'm just too old for that. But I actually have 2 viral ones right now. One's a Hillbilly Hot Dog in West Virginia, where you can go and get a home wrecker.
All right.
It's this big 3-pound hot dog that you get, and it is just massive. And then I actually just have a picture of me opening a door to the beach, talking about my toxic trait is planning a trip. If you say it, I'm going. So reels can be great.
Right.
It's just I don't enjoy personally making them. So give me still photos any day.
No,
Someone told me the line, phones always eat first.
Oh my gosh, that's the honest to God truth. You do not want to go out to dinner with me. It's like, whoa, wait.
Yep. Yeah. Nobody touch anything. Very cool. Question number 2. Do you have plans to write any more books?
I do. I'm actually working on unique restaurants and eateries.
All right.
Ooh, I like it.
So if you're a restaurant in Ohio and happen to be listening to this podcast and you have a good story, well, you definitely need to reach out to me, because what I don't know, I don't know. So,
right.
Yeah.
No, I love that. We'll be looking for that. Last question here is, in your opinion, what is the most effective social media platform for tourism?
Oh my goodness. So I'm going to, I don't think that anyone is specific, but I'm going to say Facebook right now, just because it's the only space where you can put static photos, meaning still photos, and they do really well.
Yeah.
If you put static photos on Instagram, they don't do anything. Yeah, so it has to be, like a moving reel or content, or your photos in a reel. So it takes a little more work. And I also think you see dollars translate on Facebook. I'm not sure how many dollars translate on Instagram.
I feel like Instagram is trying to figure that out still.
Yeah.
Right. So, and just, paying creators and all of those things. There's a lot that goes into that. Being a photo video guy myself, I'm very frustrated with Instagram at times because. Yeah.
Can I ask, and again, just curious, because a lot of us that, Facebook introduced this this creator platform, and they will pay, different creators money for posts that people are interacting with. Is that a revenue driver for a group? Like, does Meta send you a check?
No, not for my Facebook group.
So that's one differentiator from creation. Okay.
Right.
Because
but if I made a post on, say I was monetizing myself, you can make a post on your personal page and then share it into a group.
That's the way.
Then you could probably get revenue dollars. But again,
I got my first like $67 check like 3 or 4 months ago, and I was like, I'm retiring.
We could buy our next building.
That whole 0.0001% that Facebook's saying.
And I was like, how much time I spent on this platform, and I got my $67.
Well, I mean, even a little bit actually goes a long way. I mean,
it does.
YouTube has been doing it for a while where they're paying creators because guess what? They're bringing eyeballs to their platform. And there's a whole other podcast there.
A whole nother
I just had to ask. I was curious about that. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, I have a few closing questions here for you as we start to wrap up the episode. And the first one is, what is one professional development resource that was impactful for you along your professional journey?
So that would be Ohio Travel Association. I took an OTLA class with Melinda Huntley, and
she's a rock star.
Isn't she amazing? I have learned so much from her. She's actually acknowledged in my book, the new one, because if I did not, as I was an author, I just thought you just showed up to a destination and you did the things. But there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes when a visitor comes. Mm-hmm. So my project was indirect spending. So if you Google that, you'll be like, oh, it was the worst thing I could ever have to write about and work on, okay? It's when you buy toilet paper for the bathroom, that's an indirect spend that kind of comes from a visitor coming. So we had to come up with this whole project. But now I realize if a visitor comes and they've stayed in a hotel and they've used the services, the landscapers that keep the land done and beautiful, that happens because somebody came and spent some dollars. I mean, it's just not people showing up. Like it fuels that whole economy. So that changed my perspectives as an author now too. So I pay a lot of attention. So I appreciate Ohio Travel Association.
And I think that's a new one here for the podcast for sharing a resource. So I appreciate you sharing that. And then secondly is, where can people follow you and your business to keep up with the work that you are doing?
So Brandy Gleason has a blue check mark. I pay my whole $15 a month to keep my little blue check mark, but it also does protect my page from being hacked because it's worth the $15 if you have a lot of people who are trying to get your stuff from foreign countries. So you can do that. Gleason Family Adventure. That is on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on TikTok, but I don't ever use it. I think that would be a whole nother fun podcast because they just signed the law that it has to be sold. So
I know, it's wild.
I'm curious to see what happens with that.
Yep.
I have theories.
Stay tuned for next podcast on her theories.
But Ohio Road Trips also has its own pages and Instagram account. So that's kind of where I hang out.
Yeah.
Well, and stay tuned. We are working on a book signing, so we will be working on some dates with Brandy. And again, would love to, for all of you that are looking to buy this book, it's available on Amazon.
It is. Yeah. And I prefer if you can check your local businesses first.
Yep.
I do know that they are being sold at a lot of local businesses, so check your local bookstore first.
Great plug.
Yeah, I love that. You have anything else for us?
Well, 1 to 1 million. Like your story is inspiring. I think for those of us that are listening, it's like how you turn a hobby into a professional business. You have done that. And now it's how you're helping so many other small businesses in towns that are growing and thriving. And I just appreciate you for doing that. But I think today, like, we covered a lot about how to leverage Meta and all of its assets. And the biggest thing is the reach and exposure that you can get from curating and creating your own group. And what Brandy doubled down on is like, it doesn't matter how big the numbers are. It's actually how niche the audience is and the kind of things that they need and value from you as a creator and from the members that you curate in that group. So congratulations on your success. Excited to read. I got lots of reading this weekend and lots of new towns to explore, but thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks for tuning in on this episode of the Small Nation Podcast. We hope that conversation proved valuable to you. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share the episode and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcasting platform. You can also subscribe to the Small Nation YouTube channel if you prefer to watch your episodes. Follow Small Nation on social media, and we'll see you in the next episode.